welcome to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast, Achieving Peace Through Compassion. This podcast is a recording of the Dharma Talks given during our Sunday service.
Speaking of the new Sangha house, there's something especially appropriate about new beginnings today. I mentioned it in my guided meditation because as a Sangha, we are at the new threshold that is very, very real. Our preparations to move to Northmore and our new meditation hall. Now, a physical move, we've talked about that, entails a lot of practical things. Painting the building, painting the rooms, getting the gift shop ready, bringing in cushions, setting up the altar, and getting our schedule together, unloading those pods, keys, having a set of keys to this new place. But for a Sangha, a meditation hall is more than just a room or a building. It becomes a place that's shaped by practice. Over a period of time, it holds our silence. It holds our laughter. It holds our conversation. It holds people who arrive distracted, tired, grieving, joyful, restless, and uncertain. It holds countless breaths. It holds all of the moments when we sit down on the cushion, become quiet, and then begin again. And so moving to a new hall, it feels more like something than just changing locations. It feels like we're entering a new season together. There's something really particular about new seasons. Sometimes we notice these things dramatically. That first cold morning of fall or winter, the first snow that we get, that first warm afternoon when everyone seems to go outside for the first time in months. But more often, seasons change slowly, and they start to change before we even realize it. The light just begins to change differently through our window. The evenings arrive just a little earlier every single day. We walk outside and something's bloomed or something begins to die back. The air smells different as our season. We walk outside one morning and we realize that something is shifting. But the world itself has been changing all along. What happens is we just simply begin to notice it. And I think that that's one of the reasons that the changing seasons can be a powerful Buddhist teaching for us. One of the most fundamental teachings of Buddhism is anicca, impermanence. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches all conditioned things are impermanent. Everything that arises will change. Everything that begins will eventually end. Our bodies change. Our relationships change. Our work changes. Our communities change. Our understanding of ourselves begins. Even the things that seem permanent are changing while we're looking at them. Now we know this intellectually, but living through it is true. In a true way is an entirely different matter entirely. Because much of our suffering comes from wanting things to remain exactly as they are. We want something to stay beautiful. We want to hold on to it and to keep it. And when something is painful, we want to get rid of it as quickly as we possibly. When life begins to settle down, we want it to stay settled. And when things begin to change without our permission, we can experience that change almost as a kind of betrayal. But the Buddhist teachings ask us to consider something very different. What if change is not an interruption of our lives? But what if change is life? The seasons understand this better than we do. A tree doesn't necessarily regard losing its leaves as some sort of personal failure. A garden doesn't apologize to anyone when summer ends. Earth doesn't say, I'm doing really well this July. I think I'd prefer things to stay just as they are. Nature itself moves through growth, fullness, decline, rest, and renewal. and every stage belongs exactly where it is. I sometimes think that our difficulties as human beings arise when something in our lives we want to remain permanent are interrupted by a season of growth. But there's a dichotomy to that because we want to be productive. We want to keep things moving forward. We want to keep blooming. We want evidence that we're becoming more successful, more accomplished, wiser, stronger, a better Buddhist. But nature doesn't always work that way. There are seasons of enormous growth that happen. Then there are seasons when we have to harvest. There are seasons when things fall away, and seasons when very little appears to be happening at all. Now, that doesn't mean that nothing's happening. A winter landscape can look completely still while enormous processes are taking place underground. Roots are alive. Seeds are waiting. The soil itself is changing. There is activity we cannot see. And I believe that our lives work this way as well. Sometimes the season we are entering is not asking us to produce anything. Maybe it's asking us just to sit and listen. Maybe it's asking us to heal. Maybe it's asking us to reconsider something we thought we understood. Maybe it's asking us to let go of something and to end. I think that's really difficult because our culture teaches us all the time to celebrate beginnings much more than endings. We like opening days. I know for me, I'm getting ready to start a new semester and everybody's celebrating that at work. We celebrate new projects. Who doesn't love the beginning of a new relationship? Purchasing a new house. Our new plans. Beginnings feel full of possibility, but every beginning must have an ending. To enter one season means we have to exit another one. And perhaps one of the practices at the beginning of a new season is simply to acknowledge that we are leaving behind another. Not dramatically, not necessarily with regret, just with honesty. That something is over. Something will not happen exactly this way again. We as a Sangha are not going to meet again at the Wayne Avenue address for a Sunday service. That beautiful home that gave us so much for so many years. So that seems to be particularly important as we as a Sangha prepare to leave one physical space and enter another. The rooms that we were in and practiced together have mattered because of what has happened inside of them. We sat together there. We studied the Dharma. We practiced together there on numerous occasions. We have formed relationships there. We've also brought our joy and our suffering into that space. We need to honor that. And then we should allow ourselves to leave. Because Buddhism teaches us not that impermanence, nothing has mattered. It's quite the opposite. Things matter deeply because they're impermanent. The Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh often wrote about what he calls inner being, the understanding that nothing exists entirely by itself. A flower contains rain. It contains sunlight. It contains soil. It even contains the gardener. It contains generations and generations and generations of seeds that came before it. And if we look deeply enough at that flower, we can see that the whole world is present. I think the same can be said for a person who arrives at the beginning of a new season. We don't arrive empty-handed. We bring everything that has happened before. We bring the people who have loved us, the people who have disappointed us, the mistakes we've learned, the mistakes we've made, the lessons we've learned, things we don't understand. We bring that previous season with us. And when we go to our new meditation hall in Northmore, we'll be like that too. It will be a new space, but we will not enter it as a new Sangha with no history. We brought the 700 West Penway Sangha with us to Wayne Avenue. We brought Lama Chuck and Mary with us to the Wayne Avenue address. We brought all of those practices that have sustained us. We brought all of the teachers who have influenced us. We're bringing all of those people who have sat beside us. We bring those people who are no longer physically present with us. We bring every person who has come through the door searching for some measure of peace, wisdom, and community. We're taking them with us. We're moving them along as well. The old places, both Penway and Wayne, do not disappear simply because we're moving. It becomes a part of what we carry forward. But bringing with our experience does not mean we have to keep living in the past. There's an important difference between carrying our experience and clinging to an experience. Experience becomes wisdom. Clinging becomes weight. And so perhaps there's a question worth asking whenever we cross one of these new thresholds, whenever we go into a new season. That question is, what do we want to carry forward? And what am I willing to put down? Maybe there's an expectation that's becoming too heavy. Maybe there's an old disappointment that we keep replaying over and over. Maybe there's an idea about ourselves that was once true, but no longer is. Maybe there's a relationship with success, and control, and productivity, or perfection that deserves to be reconsidered. Or perhaps we are being asked to release something much simpler. Maybe it's the belief that we need to know what's going to come next. Zen Buddhism has a beautiful concept called beginner's mind. Shunryu Suzuki writes in Zen Mind, Beginner Mind, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but the beginner doesn't know yet. Now that can sound like weakness. But in Zen practice, not knowing can be a tremendous place of openness. I don't know about you, but most of the time, I spend a large part of my day trying to become an expert about something. We learn our job, we learn our rotations, we learn how our families work. We develop patterns and strategies that help us move through the world. And that competence is useful. But sometimes competence quietly hardens into certainty. We stop seeing what's actually happening because we already believe we know what's going to happen. We stop listening because we know what the other person's going to say. We stop being curious because we already know what our explanation is. Having a beginner's mind asks us to loosen our grip on certainty. At the beginning of this new season, perhaps we might say, I don't know exactly what this season's going to bring. I don't know everything I will need. I do not know who I will be when this season ends. And perhaps as a Sangha, we might say something similar. We don't know how this new space is going to become. We don't know who we will be eventually when we walk through those doors. We don't know which friendships are going to begin there. We don't know what difficult conversations. We don't know who's going to walk through that door believing that they can't meditate, cannot belong, and cannot find a place for themselves and discover other. In a way, our new hall is beginner's mind made physical. It's an empty room. It's full of possibility. And instead of experiencing that uncertainty as frightening, perhaps we can experience it as freedom. There's so many possibilities here that we cannot yet see. There's so many conversations that haven't happened yet. There's so many people out there we haven't even met. So many ideas we haven't considered. So much of the Dharma we haven't been exposed to. And there are parts of ourselves that haven't been called forward yet. I think what a new season does is it invites us to be more curious. There's a Zen story that I return to often. A student comes to a teacher wanting to learn Zen. A teacher begins pouring tea into the student's cup. The cup fills, but the teacher keeps pouring. Tea spills over the edge and onto the table. Finally, the student says, "My cup is full. No more will go in." And the teacher tells him that he is like the cup, already so full of his own opinions and ideas that there's no room for anything new. A new season is just like a cup that we need to empty just a little bit. Not to erase everything we've known in the past, not to leave everything we've done as a Sangha behind, but to create enough room for something we do not yet know. Perhaps we can walk into familiar places and actually see them again. Perhaps we can listen differently to someone we think we already understand. Perhaps we can approach our work not asking, how have I always done this? But what does this moment require? And perhaps we can extend that beginner's mind to ourselves. I know I have a lot of fixed ideas about myself. I'm sure you do too. I'm the responsible one. I'm the difficult one. I'm the successful one. I'm the person who takes care of everyone. I'm not creative. I am creative. I always do this. I'm not very brave. I could never do that. But Buddhism teaches us that the self is not as fixed as we think that it is. We are changing constantly. The person who enters this season is not exactly the person who entered the last one. And we don't have to keep proving an old version of ourselves. There's another simple teacher of impermanence that's always available to us. That's the breath. In Buddhist meditation, we return again and again and again to the breathing, not because it's mystical or exotic. Quite the opposite. It's really ordinary. It's happening right now. We just breathe in and we breathe out. And then we breathe in again and we breathe out. And we do this over and over. Each breath, its own new season. And the breath teaches us something remarkable about letting go. We can't receive the next breath until we let go of the previous one. Just imagine trying that. Keep taking breaths in. That wasn't good. I'll keep it. Eventually, we would lead ourselves towards suffering. The exhale makes the inhale possible. Release creates space for renewal. And life works this way all the time. Sometimes what we call as the beginning is actually the exhale. It's the letting go. It's the clearing. It's the willingness to stop forcing something that has reached its natural conclusion. But often we know what we are leaving before we know what will replace it. There's a period of uncertainty that happens between seasons. I like to say it's being in the hallway. I'm leaving one room and I'm going into another. The old plan just doesn't work anymore. But our new plan isn't quite formulated yet. We don't have a direction yet. But Buddhist practice teaches us not to rush through that uncertainty. Pema Chodron writes extensively about learning to remain present in the uncomfortable spaces where we don't know what's going to happen next. Our plan is often to rush through uncertainty and make another plan. We fill the silence. We search for the answer. We tell ourselves a story. But sometimes it's okay to just breathe and say, I don't know. That space is not empty. That I don't know is not an empty space. It's a moment alive with possibility. Maybe the practice is simply just to become a little more awake to the life that's already happening. To notice when we're rushing, when we're clinging, when we stopped listening. To notice where beauty shows up. To notice when another person needs something for us. To notice that moment of gratitude. So as we begin to move towards our hall, remind ourselves that it's a place of refuge. Not a refuge from the world, but a place where we can learn to return to the world with greater wisdom. And may it be a place where silence deepens us, a place where community sustains us. May it be a place where we remember that practice is not something that we do alone. May we remember that a meditation hall is sacred, not because of the building, but because of the practice that takes place inside of it. That's the Sangha. It's the willingness again and again to sit down together and begin. So this new season is already changing. The doors of change are opening. May we be awake enough to notice it. And then may we have the courage to walk through it. And finally, may we enter this new season together. Thank you, and I hope this talk has been beneficial.
Thank you for listening to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast. Music was provided by Barefoot Bran Music. Please consider supporting the Rime Buddhist Center by making a donation at our website at www.rimecenter.org/donate.